Hello and welcome to the Podville Diaries. My name is Jane Scruggs and I'm the co-founder of Podville, which is an office community created from repurposed shipping containers down in Bristol. I'm the co-founder and I'm bringing to you a story, I guess, of how we started Podville. We took it from a piece of empty land and brought it into fruition. So the Podville Diaries, I'm going to be sharing how we did that, why we did that more importantly, which is where I'll start today, and talk about the ups and downs, the things that we wouldn't do again, things that went really well, things that didn't go so well, because I think there's huge value in what I've learnt on the site, and I haven't really talked too much about it on social media so far. Had my head down in the project, and I think that actually there's a lot of value there for people, whether you're interested in modular construction, if you're just interested in shipping containers, maybe if you've got some space on your piece of land that's not really being used to it's not benefiting you by sitting there empty, then maybe this could inspire you to do something exciting on that land. Podville itself is 14 shipping containers, 12 of which have been converted into offices, so they're individual office pods, 320 square foot each. They're high cube 40-foot containers. They're single trip, so they've literally come over from China once. We bought them all new. They're called new, but they're single trip, as opposed to the battered up ones that you see lying in a farm or somewhere like that, which are obviously cheaper. But I will talk a bit more about why we chose those ones a bit later on. So there's 12 containers plus 2 extra, one which is a communal breakout zone for the tenants, and the other is a sort of a loo block. And the whole site is just under 5,000 square feet. What's that in square meters? I think it's about 420 square meters. And well, the project itself is on a site owned by my business partner Grant, who I've known for many years. We've worked together sort of on and off over the years. So he had this site since 2012. I think it was 2012, thereabouts. And it had full planning on it when he bought it, or I think he bought it as part of a portfolio. And this site is right next to, as I said, the M5 junction, junction 20 of the M4, I think it is. So great location, north of Bristol, out of town location. It's actually on a business park already. There's a few, there's Aztec West, which is very close by, which is a huge business park in Bristol. It's very well known. You've got RAC nearby, EE, there's some really big companies there, and smaller companies too. So this particular site, it had planning for a 3-story building, and actually it was quite huge. I've downloaded some of the images, so I'll try and put them up next to the video so you can see. I think he decided just to not go for that because the cost would have been huge, and actually I don't think it would have been viable on the site. So when the site, half the site came empty, it had sui generis planning permission on it, and it used to be for an accessible transport provider. That tenant moved out. The rest of the building is actually let, and still let, to a day nursery. So they take half of the building. The other half was the site, part that Grant wanted to convert into offices. Now the car parking area for these offices it's actually huge, and there were more car parking spaces than he really needed for the site. So we had a little look at it, and there's a big area of the car park that's just not doing anything. What are you going to get from these extra car parking spaces, really? So Grant and I looked at it. I mean, he's got huge experience in properties, developed many buildings, commercial, residential in the UK. Together I worked with him for on a commercial property fund, but just before the credit crunch and during the credit crunch. It was an AIM listed fund. So, you know, he's got a lot of experience in property. I've got a little bit, but not so much hands-on. Mine's more on the investor relations side. So we looked at it, and he wanted to build an office or refurbish the office space. And we realised that in that area, there's a lot of office space that's available, and we looked at some of them, and they're typically boring, like white boxes, you know, white trunking, fluorescent lights, you know, boring carpet tiles, quite soul destroying. And we realised that if we wanted to create something different that was going to let well at a good price, we had to do something a bit funky. So I came up with some concepts for him, and for the main building, which is now called Powerhouse. Now that is 6,700 square foot. So we worked together on the redesign of that. And actually, as I'm speaking, what day is it today? 10th of May, my boyfriend's birthday. It is 60% let, I think, which is really cool. It's a lovely space. I'll post some pictures of that too. But going back to Podville, the container project. So we thought, right, what can we do with containers? Because, well, first of all, going back, why containers? So the problem it's solving is the dead space, and Grant wanted to receive, you know, as much income from as possible and sweat the asset, as they say. So we looked at some of the commercial container projects. One in Bristol called Boxworks down at Temple Meads, pretty much, you know, identical to what we've done. Ours is a slightly different specification, slightly larger units. And that was, you know, that we went down, we visited them, it looked great, and we thought we could do this in the car park. Obviously in London you've got Containerville, you've got Gotham Project, Elephant Artworks, there's a few of them around, and there's lots more actually that I haven't even heard about that have popped up, because containers are becoming really popular now. But in the north of Bristol, in those business park areas where everything is quite samey, we thought it would work really well. Something needed to stand out on the site to actually attract attention and get the tenants in. So yeah, I guess the reason why we chose containers was to solve a problem. The great thing about the containers is the fact that they're movable. So we thought, well, okay, we'll build the containers, and you know what, if they don't let, we'll just pick them up and put them on another site somewhere. So quite a bold move, but we thought, well, if we actually construct them so that they're plug and go, which we have done, then, you know, why not? So that was another incentive really. They're flexible, you can move them around. Also, the great thing about containers is you don't have to do a lot of digging. You know, the groundworks is minimal for them. I will go into a bit more detail about how you have to prepare for the site in probably the next one, the next Podville Diary. And yeah, so there was that attraction of flexibility. Now, the thing about, I've just got my notes here, so I'm just going to keep referring to them so I don't miss anything. I guess why didn't we build? You could build another permanent building on the site, and it's 5,000 square feet. You know, that's a pretty good size. As you can see in the pictures, it's a nice corner of a car park. We could have put a building there. Whether we got planning on it, I don't know for that, but say we did. Now the build cost probably would have been more, maybe a little bit more. I think we built the pods for, I think it's just under £100 a square foot, including everything, professional fees, wages, infrastructure, groundworks, everything. And actually the Powerhouse on the same site came in at about the same. That was a refurb. So yeah, it might have been a bit more, but when it comes down to income. So typically rents in that area achieve around £16.50 a square foot for it's not Cat A, it's not grade A, it's grade B plus, I would say, what we've done in the powerhouse, and we've actually achieved 1650 a square foot there. So had we done that on the site where Podville is, you know, we would have made I haven't done the figures on that particular amount, but Podville we're charging it's £1,000 a month all in, so that works out at 37.50 a square foot. So it's double what you would get for a standard office space at 16.50 a square foot. You know, we're offering them inclusive of electricity, super fast broadband, super fast fibre with their own private network inside each pod, so it's much more secure than working in a co-working space or a managed office, serviced office. And you've got your name above the door. So there's a lot of pluses to having a pod. They fit 4 to 6 people. So, you know, if you're in a co-working space, you've got a team of 2 or 3 people, it's actually cost effective to move into your own private office. And quite often people maybe in co-working are used to that vibrant community, chatting over coffee, funky interiors, and they go and find an office somewhere and actually they realise that it's kind of soul destroying. They're all, as I said before, bland boxes painted in white with grey floors. So yeah, that was basically the reason for going for containers. They're also, you know, they're super repeatable. They're all the same inside. You don't have to do it that way. We did it the most cost-effective way, which is one office per container, but you can cut them up, you can join them. But for our first project, we wanted to keep it simple. So that's kind of all I'm going to talk about now for this episode of the Diaries. And the next one, I'm going to start talking about how. I think I wanted to start with why, because I think, as Simon Sinek says, always start with your why. What's the point of doing what you're doing? And so I've shared that with you. And next time I'll be talking about how we built them. Thanks for watching.